Walsh, AM 560, The Answer. Boy, this is long overdue. This is really long overdue. The GAO has agreed to look at Planned Parenthood and related organizations. That's the Gov't Accountability Office. They've finally agreed to look at and audit and review Planned Parenthood and a few other organizations and look at where they spend their federal funding. This is a big deal. Back in February, Congresswoman Diane Black of Tennessee, along with a couple others, Texas Republican Pete Olson and Louisiana Republican Senator David Vitter, they led a group of over 50 lawmakers who called on the GAO to issue a report explaining to the American people how Planned Parenthood spends their money, what percentage of their money goes to performing and promoting abortions. A big deal. The whole notion of federal funding for abortions is something we should get rid of, and it's a big deal. And the problem is Planned Parenthood has been very secretive about where they spend their money, and there has not been the government will to look into it. Congresswoman Diane Black in a statement said, and I quote, "The federal government providing funding to abortion providers is a serious problem in our nation. I am very pleased," she said, "with today's decision from the GAO to investigate the use of taxpayer money." Remember what we're talking about, taxpayer money designated to any abortion provider, particularly Planned Parenthood. And remember, it's so important to look at the figures. Planned Parenthood performed a record 333,964 abortions last year. Almost 1 million, all told, in the previous 3 years. And remember, at the same time that Planned Parenthood is spending all of this money, your and my money, they are receiving, at the same time they're performing all these abortions, 333,000 last year alone, they're receiving huge amounts of federal taxpayer dollars. Last year, a record $542 million Planned Parenthood received from our federal government. That was an 11% increase over the past 2 years. Senator Vitter said, "Planned Parenthood and other organizations that provide abortions clearly benefit from Uncle Sam, but there's no accounting to prove how they actually use that money." The GAO report, GAO finally agreeing, Vitter said, to do a report will shine a light on how our tax dollars are being spent. Look, again, this is so important. Planned Parenthood has been playing a game for years. They do a number of different things. And we never know, again, because last year, they received $542 million of our taxpayer dollars, and we never have a clear accounting as to where that goes. And so rightly, because we know as well that they perform a lot of abortions and provide abortion-related services, it's begged the question, how much of the taxpayer dollars that you're getting goes to these abortions? And they've refused to answer these questions. They've been unbelievably secretive, and they've been able to get away with it because certainly in the executive branch and too often in the legislative branch, there has not been the will to demand an accounting. And I know this is a big deal. This news that the GAO is finally going to look into, this is step one, finally going to look into where Planned Parenthood's money goes. And there are a lot of listeners I know that don't like, talking about abortion and marriage and all these other issues. These other issues are very, very important. And we're talking about your and my tax dollars, okay? Okay, we're talking about last year, Planned Parenthood got $542 million from the federal government. And we don't know where that money goes. So the fact that the GAO today said, we are going to do a report, we are going to have an accounting of Planned Parenthood's money, that's a big deal. Look, it is time to defund Planned Parenthood. When I was in Congress, I voted 2, maybe 3 times to defund Planned Parenthood. The country right now is diverse in their opinions on abortion. I'll grant you that. But the country's about 80-20 that they don't approve federal funding. They do not approve federal funding of abortions. Our legislative body should reflect that public opinion. That's clear. Just like there's a sea change right now in where the public is moving on abortion, the majority of Americans now get that there should be no abortions after 20 weeks when an infant can survive, when that infant is a baby, when that baby can feel and dream and feel pain and hear noise. There should be no killing of those babies. And public opinion has moved on this issue. Public opinion has moved even further on no public funding. And we're at a point right now where there should be no public funding of Planned Parenthood and all these other groups, the Population Council, the Guttmacher Institute, all these other groups that help provide abortion services. There should be no public funding.